Okay, our next person is Raquel. I'm going to mess this up because I've tried to practice it so many times. Nakoneczny, and I apologize if I am mispronouncing that. Sculpting Humanity in the Work of Ernesto Neto. Born and raised in the Lone Star State, Raquel graduated with honors from the University of California, San Diego, with her BA in art history, theory, and criticism. Raquel's research interests include contemporary Latin American art, existential philosophy and theology, politics, and ecology. Her thesis explores the work of Brazilian artist Ernesto Neto through the writings of Martin Heidegger. Raquel's interests also led her to work with Blue Trail, which will launch a walking trail of interactive art, design, tech, science installations proposed for the San Francisco waterfront in September 2013. When Raquel is not at school or at work, she enjoys splashing around in the beautiful ocean waters off the coast of her home, San Diego, and her hobbies include sailing, surfing, snorkeling, quilting, and crochet. And as the wife of an active duty serviceman, Raquel enjoys serving her local San Diego military community.
Being immersed in one of Ernesto Neto's sculptures is like being swept away into a different world, a wonderland. Around you, an entire cosmos unfolds as large forms droop from the ceiling. Soft-colored lights diffuse through translucent material, and the lingering scent of spices invigorate the senses. These wondrous and marvelous environments have a tendency to turn visitors into daydreamers, cloud walkers, voyeurs, and fantasizers. Each creation is a space that engages visitors to lose inhibitions, forget the reality of the world outside the gallery, and embrace the fun, mysterious, spontaneous, and sensuous journey that Neto's artworks offer. These sculptures are not just places of pleasure that curb the responsibilities and hardships of the real world. These sculptures call visitors into participation to reveal what usually goes unseen or unnoticed. In the midst of Neto's sculptures, the essence of the world is revealed to us, and we stand in awe of its wonder. But before I tell you what Neto's sculpture teaches us, I want to give you a better understanding of Wonderland. What exactly is a wonderland? Perhaps for some, the thought of a wonderland conjures thoughts of an exotic or enchanted land, an atmospheric mist settling on the greenest of moss. Or maybe you imagine a winter wonderland covered in snow with an ice castle shimmering like 1,000 diamonds. For others, Wonderland is down the rabbit hole, or in a galaxy light years away. Wonderland stirs up ideas of a fantastical place that is mysterious, sublime, and sometimes even terrifying. The problem with this concept of Wonderland is that it buttresses a view of our everyday world as deprived and lacking in some way or another. Wonderland becomes otherworldly, and as such facilitates the impossibility of ever finding oneself in a wonderland. When observing Neto's work, it becomes clear that the sculptures demonstrate the same elements of the previous examples of Wonderland. You can see here that this sculpture, along with many other of Neto's sculptures, take on an otherworldly appearance. They too are beautiful, sensuous, enchanting, and disruptive to our preconceived notions of what constitutes and what we consider to be a traditional space. Not to mention that in the midst of Neto's sculptures, the worries and the cares of the everyday fade away. The unfamiliar surroundings cause participants to soak in the environment. Thoughts of the mundane dissolve into experiences of touch, of balance, of atmosphere. Though at first, these places appear to provide an experience of the otherworldly, they are not in any way an attempt to buttress a view of Wonderland as deprived of the everyday. Rather, Neto's sculptures are a proposition. They are an invitation affording visitors a unique opportunity to rethink not only how we conceive of Wonderland, but what we consider to be wondrous. and they do so by luring us to engage with ordinary materials in unordinary ways. In the midst of Neto's sculptures, we realize that the ordinary, the everyday, can be, and in fact is, quite extraordinary. The question becomes, how do Neto sculptures alter our perception of the everyday? Let us take a look at Neto's 2009 sculpture Anthropodino, exhibited in the Park Armory in New York, because this work, among many of Neto's works, is a celebration of the everyday. Anthropodino is a large-scale interactive sculpture filling the 55,000 square foot gallery. Visitors who enter the gallery gaze upward as if looking into a canopy in the jungle. The canopy is composed of gauzy white material that stretches across the drill hall's exposed interior truss. The light that shines through the translucent material is diffused, creating a soft and enchanted atmosphere in the gallery. From above, large undulating sacks hang down. Weighing down the nylon are earthy materials such as sand and spices, chamomile, lavender, clove, black pepper, ginger, turmeric, paprika, and cumin. Below the canopy, you'll see a labyrinth of tunnels that sprawl across the floor like a pastel caterpillar. Arched passageways make up the organic form as they twist and turn, leading to a large dome in the center of the work. The skeleton of the sculpture is covered in Neto's signature material, lycra. Like skin, the smooth lycra is pulled taut over the wooden archways, giving the sculpture a biomorphic aesthetic. The sculpture includes a pool tucked away in between the sculpture's tunnels. Visitors can dive into a sea of small teal plastic-colored balls. And if so inclined, visitors could choose to throw themselves atop a large, plush purple form. Neto's sculptures create a world that is sensuous and magical. Anthropodino is a wonderland. But why is this sculpture a wonderland, and what makes it different than the everyday? In Wonderland, just as in Anthropodino, things and people are apprehended not in their everydayness, that is, their usefulness, but rather as themselves, in their essence. When I speak of the everyday, I'm referring to a particular attitude. There's a tendency to view people and objects as resources. Rather than celebrating presence of people and objects, we want to know how they can work for us, benefit us, get us that extra raise, or perhaps that tenure track job you've been eyeing for so long. So what does it mean to view things as useful, as a resource? Take, for example, people as resources. People are no longer humans with feelings, aspirations, and character, but instead are seen as consumers, customers, and workers. And this attitude extends beyond the immediate. Think about our attitude toward storing things for later use. We do this not in the essence of caring for, but in hopes that this resource can be used to our benefit time and time again. The result of this attitude denies objects and humans a space in which to exist and flourish according to their own nature. Neto's sculpture is an attempt to address this attitude and remind people of the luster and the radiance objects and humans hold. Anthropodino shines because it does not conform to notions of the everyday. But yet, if you take the time to look closely at the work, you'll notice that there's something familiar about it. And perhaps it's the familiar in an unfamiliar way that strikes us as wondrous. People and objects are not restricted by our expectations of them, but instead open to endless opportunities. When we let go of how we think about how things should be and just let them be, we are authentically caring for them. Authentic care means to preserve the essence of people and objects. And by essence, I don't mean the essential thing of a thing. By essence, I mean to draw attention to the fact that an object has the ability to show up at all. Essence is about presence. It's about the magic of disclosure. In order to see things in their essence, We need to step out of the usual, step out of the everyday. But why and how does Anthropodino afford visitors this opportunity? How does the work of art alter our perception toward people and objects? Anthropodino allows visitors a chance to step out of the banalities of our everyday lives because it utilizes ordinary objects, as mentioned earlier, in unordinary ways. And this attitude shift occurs both physically and perceptually. Physically, Neto's work exhibits the quality of a wonderland because of the atmosphere it creates. The aesthetics of Anthropodino reads quite differently from the cars on the street, the brick houses, and the towering construction of buildings within the city. The sculpture, unlike the real world, is soft and attractive, inviting and is begging to be touched in a way that is quite different from our experience of the everyday world. Visitors touch Neto's work differently than they would some of the objects encountered in their everyday lives. People touch just to touch. Take the nylon, for example. We see it as on an everyday basis as pantyhose, parachutes, and rope. But here, it becomes a soft and colorful substance, alluring, mysterious, enchanting. And the same thing happens when spices are taken out of the kitchen. Here, the raw substance seeps through the pores of the nylon. The aroma is robust, thickening the air, reminding participants of their ability to smell, their ability to breathe. But the most miraculous part of Neto's sculpture is that we as humans have access to these things. Our bodies are sensitive to the qualifications of the magical and hidden world that Neto's sculptures render visible. The radiant object, though an important part of Neto's Wonderland equation, is not its most important element. The interactive sculpture calls forth the lived body in an attempt to remind participants of their essential involvement in the wonder of the world. In Anthropodino, humans are not written out of Wonderland, but rather written into the very fabric of its existence. For it is the human for whom things show up and for whom things have meaning. Anthropodino allows us to see things in a new light. Even if only for a short duration of time, the sculpture alters our perception. The materials, the shape, their meaning, they cannot quite be placed within a fixed category. To give a famous example of Heidegger's, feel the weight of a stone in your palm, and its heaviness remains a mystery. Try to get inside of it by smashing it, and the fragments pose the same enigma. Plus, you've lost the stone. Put it on the scales, and you can no longer feel the weight. Subject it to a molecular analysis, and you lose the stone again. The same explanation Heidegger gives is the same proposition Neto's Anthropodino makes. That is, there seems to be a certain earthiness, an essence to all things, and that essence is completely incapable of being reduced to a name, to a number, or even to a particular purpose. In Anthropodino, spices, nylon, a purple bouncy blob, they elide our preconceived notions developed for their use in our mundane lives. And instead of attempting to identify them and bog them down with the same attitude we normally would, in Anthropodino, we celebrate them. So if we think about Anthropodino as a wonderland, it's not wondrous because it's out of this world, because as we've seen, it's definitely made of this world, of this earth. In the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned that Neto's sculpture teaches us something. It teaches us that all of the beauty and majesty visitors experience while interacting with the sculpture is, remember, composed of the world to which it belongs, our world. If we think about what makes a wonderland wondrous at all, we find that we don't need to lose ourselves to a figment of our imagination or travel across time and space. Neto's creations exist here, the place we inhabit, the world into which we are born, live, work, and die, the world in which we dwell. This is the beauty of Neto's work, is that it takes us out of the everyday, into the inhabitual, to discover the hidden truth. Wonderland is not down the rabbit hole or across an unknown sea or galaxy. If only we allow ourselves to let it be, to shine forth in its boundless radiance. Only then can we step into the world and see it for what it truly is, a land full of wonder, a wonderland. Thank you.